Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com. Sorry. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Oh my God, this echo is driving me nuts. To get some sound. I switched studios again in my house. My wife did it for me when I wasn't home. And this room is not the most acoustically pleasing. So I apologize to everybody listening. I will do something about this at some point. Anyway, where was I? Critics Pod is our social media. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Rate and review the show. Give us a 5-star review, and we will read your review on the air, and you will win a Blu-ray. Go ahead and tell us more details on that, Sean.
Yeah, it's from Wellgo USA. We're gonna go with the random Blu-ray because I got a bunch of them that I can give you. So you just get one at random of a international feature. Yeah.
Just a fun little thing. We've given out several so far, and if you want one, just send a review and let us know where, so we know where to look for it. I only know iTunes or Apple Podcasts, so I might miss other things if you leave it there. So if you do leave them, go to our social media and let us know. And then patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to help support the podcast. And if you want some of our merch, go to ihatecritics.net and click on the TeePublic link up in the right-hand corner, or search Critics Pod there. All right, let's jump right into our episode. We have a lot of movies this week, which is kind of fun. It's been a while since we've had a full budget full of movies. Let's start with Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and Alex Machaka, I think her name is. Machalik. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with.
I know that. Yeah, know. My wife thought it was. Oh my God, I'm gonna forget her name. Oh my God, the chick who was the girl from Harold and Kumar who went on to become a pretty big actress. Oh my God. Malin Ackerman. And I was like, no. She's like, no, we just watched 27 Dresses, and she's in this with Judy Greer. I'm like, there's no way that girl was in 27 Dresses as an adult.
No. she's like 20.
Yeah, and Malin Ackerman's like 40, so. Again, I mean, I can see the resemblance in hindsight, but not like current day. Anyway, Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. This picks up the story of what happened at the end of the last Halloween movie, where they'd locked Jason in the basement and set the house on fire. And
Michael, not Jason.
Oh, right. Like it matters.
You're going to start saying Freddy. Just have some fun with this. Call him something different every time.
Yeah. So Pinhead, they locked him in the basement. Set it on fire. They're on their way to the hospital to try and rescue Laurie Strode, who's been stabbed in the stomach, and they see firemen headed the other way. Then we flash back in time to late 1970s when Jason's first captured, and we see the police officer Hawkins, who's eventually played by Will Patton in the modern day, played by Thomas Mann in the past version. And this is a really good sequence. It actually would make a better movie, honestly, than what we got. We've got a bunch of cops chasing Jason around Haddonfield and ending up back at his childhood home, which how come nobody ever figures out that he always goes to his childhood home every time? Every time he goes to his childhood home, just go to his house. Just go wait for him at the house. Nobody ever does it. They end up at his childhood home, and it ends up with Hawkins accidentally murdering his partner and then saving Michael's life, oddly enough, from not CGI Loomis. That was actually a real makeup guy, a guy in makeup as Dr. Loomis, who looked really believable. I thought it was CGI, honestly.
Wow.
But no, it was real. So that's really the most impressive part of the movie. Just ends right there. After that, Jason, where Michael, we cut back to whoever it is, back to modern time. He kills a bunch of firefighters and then just goes on a rampage. And some of this is pretty effective. Like, in terms of just being better than the last movie and better than the other Halloween movies, there are certain aspects of this that are pretty good. Some of the kills are pretty inventive. I liked one where He's in a car, he's murdering one guy, and then this other person comes up and tries to shoot him, and he kicks the door out, and the door hits her gun, and it spins around and shoots her in the face. That was great. That made me laugh. I thought that was very funny. What I don't like, and the things that always bug me about this movie, is that you've got Jason or Michael. I keep doing it. I can't stop.
It's kind of fun though. Just go with it. I'm enjoying this.
You've got Michael going around, and he looks like a badass. Like he's murder. Like he's just an unstoppable killer. But for some reason they can't stop turning him into this like wacky prankster. Which is just, I've never understood why they got to do this to him. So he like murders a bunch of people, right? And then he has this effective scene where he's chasing Lindsay into the forest, and she hides, and she manages to hide from him, and then he walks away. But when they come back to Lindsay and they come back to the scene, apparently Michael's now come back and like decided he's going to pose all the victims in a way that takes advantage of your nostalgia for Halloween 3 by putting the Halloween 3 masks on their head. And it's like, why would he do that? He's an unthinking killing machine. Why is he going back and posing his victims for? Why would he do that? And that's the complete lack of attention to detail is what bothers me, because you can tell that this is not a group of people who give this any thought. And that thoughtlessness bugs me, because I watch movies by Ari Aster, and I see a guy who's like thinking about every single detail. Like every detail is in place. He cares about every aspect of why someone does what they do. And this just doesn't. He just doesn't care. He just wants it to. They just want it to look cool, and it doesn't. It makes Michael look like a fool. So later on, when he finally does go to where he always goes, to his home, it's his now childhood home is occupied by this gay couple, Big John and Little John, which is they're wanting to make a gay joke here. They want to make a gay joke of some sort, but they don't want to be accused of homophobia, so they just kind of go halfway on this. What is it? Isn't it funny that they call each other Big John and Little John? I guess it's weird. I don't know if it's funny. It's weird. But then Michael shows up, and he knocks on the back door. So they go to the back door. Then Michael apparently just runs around to the front door. I just love imagining him. I love imagining Michael just jogging to the front door, giggling all the way. So you knock on the front door and then run right back around to the back door so he can get inside. Like, why do you do him dirty like that? Because all I can think of just how foolish he looks, just kind of jogging in his little suit and his mask to get from one door to the next.
Well, on that particular scene, they talk out loud about the front door back. Like, they acknowledge it. You can play a game with acoustics. I'll, make that work. You just can't do it a lot. I can tell you right now, the reason people think my house is haunted is because of the acoustics in it.
Yeah.
You literally could think, where's that not coming from?
Right.
But they're clearly front and back door in this scene.
They vocally identify it.
Yeah. And they do it enough in all the movies that it's not, I don't know.
Right. It makes Jason look like he's a childish little prankster. And it just takes away any kind of menace that he has. It's just so silly. And I can't take him seriously. He's just so, and so, there's effective stuff here. Like, I like kind of like the mob stuff that they do, but it's kind of halfway in what they're going for. And the Tommy Doyle character, played by Anthony Michael Hall, is he a hero? Is he not a hero? I don't know what kind of character he's supposed to be. I don't know what is he a parody? Is he realistic? Is he a MAGA guy? I'm not sure what they're going for with him. Yeah. It really is baffling just anything that they're trying to do. And on top of that, they've got this whole mob thing where he's kind of raising up a mob to go hunt down Michael wherever they think he might be. Well, I know what he thought to go to his childhood home. I don't know, but nevertheless, regardless, that mob thing takes away from the characters that we want to be with. We want to be with Laurie and her daughter and her granddaughter. They're the interesting characters, and we don't get them. They're all shunted off to the side.
Yeah, they're saving them for the third movie. Or saving most of them for the third movie. Spoiler alert.
Right. Well, there again, that's another point, though. They already know that there's a movie called Halloween Ends that is coming next year. And it's like, well, that just means that this movie is just spinning its wheels because Michael's not going to get killed. No one's going to stop him. So it basically, the movie's just kind of spinning its wheels and kind of doing nothing for the most part.
My biggest problem, and I don't think it's so much that they didn't pay attention to the details. It's the details that they paid attention to that bugs me. They threw it within the Halloween world. They were aware there was another round of sequels that they want to not count for. So they're focusing on the homage to some of those. They're going out of their way to make it. They're not after Laurie, and they're even like making dialogue about that. Base it in reality as much as you can. Don't worry about if you want to start fresh and get rid of all the other movies. Don't worry about them. And I just feel like they're focusing on not being those movies to a fault, and it's actually hurting the storyline. On top of that, I mean, this is the first movie that full on, maybe not the first one, but I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with like the middle Halloween movies, so forgive me. But the ones that I have seen, he's just been a guy in a mask. They go full blown supernatural on this thing, because he would be dead. I mean, there's no
right.
You can do your best to try to talk your way around the other ones, and this one, no, they flat out said it's more than a human being, and I'm sure there'll be
with every kid. With every time he kills, he grows stronger. Yeah.
So, and again, I think they wanted to say something. Because as far as I know, this was written and made. Actually, I know well before January 6th, the riots. I even think it was before George Floyd.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a coincidence that those things happen afterwards. But again, they're not saying anything. You know, it's effective moments, I guess.
Right.
But it's too rushed. There's no lead up to it, and it just gets out of control. And quite frankly, I was bored a lot of the time. I don't know. This is a mediocre Halloween movie, and that's not. And other than the very first one, none of them are really great. I like Rob Zombie's second one, but nobody saw that or the director's cut version of it. But
I've not liked any of them. I don't even, honestly, I mean, the original doesn't really do that much for me.
Right. I remember that episode.
All I can think about is him in the bushes just running between houses.
But I appreciate the Boogie Monster version of it that they're going for and the lack of a budget. And yeah, I'm bringing that to the movie, but it's there. And I do that a lot, and it makes it more... I don't know. I enjoy it, that part of it. I think he does Carpenter does a great job with suspense, even though there's definitely logic holes.
He's better at it than certainly everybody else who's touched this franchise. Absolutely. There's no question. He's been better at it than anybody else. The other directors who've done this have not been very good. And that's not to say that I think that this is a bad director. I don't think he's a bad director. I think he's so caught up in
he's too big of a fan.
Yeah, there's a lot of homage, like I said, and a lot of callbacks and the Loomis thing, and like honestly, if they'd have made that 1978 movie with him playing hide and go seek with the cops, like that's kind of an interesting idea, because I had somebody who was telling me that Michael's got the mind of a 6-year-old, and that's why he's kind of that might explain why he's a prankster, I guess.
But that doesn't. You never see him run. You never
exactly.
See him.
Exactly. Leaving that to your imagination, how he's doing that just makes it seem kind of silly, because he has no personality. There's no personality that explains that. Like Freddy can be wacky because Freddy's established himself as wacky. Freddy can do big set pieces. If Freddy wants to pose his victims to show them off to people, you kind of expect it of Freddy. You don't expect it of Michael because he's got no personality.
And if I suppose, however this plays out, if you wanted to go supernatural with it, I don't really like that. I think it's scarier when he's just a guy, personally. But again, I don't know. I'm more interested in the Laurie Strode version of it. Part of why I like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was where he went with Laurie Strode. Especially the director's cut. There was more to it. Here, she's in a hospital bed the whole time, and it's lose any of that, and all the interesting characters are gone. And you could have. It didn't have to be Tommy Doyle. It could have been anybody. And I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me think. It didn't. I hate to say it was trying to be Romero because they didn't know about the mob stuff that had gone on the last couple of years. But at the same time, there was stuff to arguing on social media and stuff that probably played a role. Mm-hmm. It was trying too hard. It wasn't natural.
What did you think of them? Bruce Lee attacking at the end. Like, you've got this giant mob of people with weapons, and they're all attacking one at a time on Michael Myers. I thought that was it was kind of awesome in a way, because I did enjoy the way he was killing people in that scene. But I was like, why are you just going at it one? Why did anybody bring a gun? Why did anybody bring a giant shotgun?
But it wouldn't have mattered because he just turned around. I mean, because he did get shot. I don't know if they had a giant shotgun. But I mean, he was definitely killed, and he just
didn't one of them stab him in the neck or like right through the neck.
Yeah,
and he still got him. So it must be some kind of supernatural thing.
Yeah, with the line you said earlier, I think they're clearly going for that, and then the third one. But I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe that means they're going to bring Halloween 5 back into the canon.
What happened in that one?
That's where he was a evil monster controlled by a secret cabal, and they used runestones to like control him. I don't know if that was 4 or 5, but it's the Paul Rudd. It's the Paul Rudd one.
I think it was a combination of I think 4 and 5 and maybe even 6 all kind of led together, and then I don't know. I know a bunch of fans were waiting for the next one because they're excited where it was going, and then Jamie Lee Curtis was like, "We should make another one," and they scrapped that whole idea, and they brought her back and made her an alcoholic. I mean, I'm all for reinventing franchises and picking sequelizing.
How many times have they done this now?
I mean, I don't mind the attempt. I think they failed personally. It could have been worse, but maybe that would have been better in some ways.
It's a huge hit. People love it. I don't know why.
Well, they take it seriously enough, I guess. So it's not like they're sending him out to outer space, even though that's way more fun. So I guess I can appreciate that, but they're just, I don't know. I appreciate their fandom, but that also is what I think holds the movie back for me. If I got anything out of this. All right, let's move on. No, go ahead.
I still laugh at prankster Jason, prankster Michael. You just think about him running. Just think about him in that suit and that mask, just jogging from one door to the next. It just tickles me.
Meanwhile, whenever you actually see him, he's walking slowly, he's tilting his head, funny, admiring his work. Anyway, let's move on to The Last Duel.
The Last Duel stars Matt Damon, Jodie Comer, Adam Driver, and Ben Affleck, directed by Ridley Scott, in a tale of 3 different stories. 3 different stories told by 3 different people, one of which is going to end up being the truth. The first comes from Matt Damon's character, who kind of poses himself as this grand warrior revenging the innocents and saving his best friend in battle. And even though they actually lost that battle, he portrays it like a victory in his version of things. And there's the little touches where things that he thinks are making him look good really aren't, and it's really smart way of telling a story, because he's not telling the truth, and large portions of what he's telling us he's actually leaving out, which we're going to see in like Adam Driver's version of the story or in Jodie Comer's version of the story. And each of them is telling you a version of the same story, which is all leading up to Jodie Comer's character being sexually assaulted by Adam Driver's character. And again, they all have a version of this, but hers happens to be the truth. She's the only person who's actually seeing these men for who they are and telling us the story of really what's been going on with them and who they really are. And they're, of course, about to duel to the death over the fact that she's accused Driver of sexually assaulting her, and Damon is essentially defending her honor, but really he's defending his own ego more than anything, because Adam Driver's character is continually taking things from him that he thinks are his. And so when Driver rapes his wife, he's basically like, he's not even like, in his version of it, he's a loving husband who's defending her honor, but in reality, he was upset that this is just another thing that Adam Driver has taken from him. And that is just such a smart play, and it really just does feel like something that is commenting on this day and age of how a woman is treated anytime she tries to tell people what a man did to her, especially a prominent man, a big man, a Supreme Court justice. Right. You might want to say. It's such a well-told story, and the movie is just endlessly epic. These battle scenes are incredible. Ridley Scott is a tremendous director. I have not loved everything that he's done, but this is a really tremendous piece of direction. But much of what's so successful about this is this really smart screenplay that uses this 800-year-old story to comment upon modern society, and it does it so incredibly well.
Yeah, the only thing I'll disagree with is I think all three characters think they're telling the truth. Like, I believe it's Matt Damon's truth, or his character's and Adam Driver's truth. I don't think they're lying. I think they believe what they're saying. And even hers is probably the most accurate, but even then is her truth, her version of the truth. And she probably puts herself in a better light than she, but even that doesn't matter. The fact is, it's really interesting by doing the three versions of the truth and how everybody can see the same thing differently. I just found that fascinating. Just absolutely fascinating. And to the point where when I watched, I didn't know how it was broken up. I actually wasn't liking it for a while because I thought they were like, well, they're rushing the story. This is and Matt Damon's character is so unlikable in his own story, and Adam Driver's character is so unlikable in his own version of the truth. They both aren't likable people in their own version.
Even in his own version, he does admit that it was a rape. Like, wow.
Well,
but his idea of it, he says it was a rape, but she only says it's a rape because she really wanted it, but propriety dictates that she state that it was a rape.
Well, and he didn't even say it was a rape. He said yes, she protested, but she really wanted it, so it wasn't really a rape. That's kind of how I took it. And, I don't know. It was just. It really was a pretty fantastic movie, and I think Ben Affleck and Jodie Comer should be up for Oscars later on in the year, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Affleck, his character is the worst character. Not the worst. I guess Adam Driver's Adam's pretty bad. Affleck's pretty bad, too. But he is... I've never seen him this good in a movie, and I've loved him in a lot of things. I thought he was fantastic in this.
It's so just boiling over with nasty charisma.
Yeah, and a lot of it's modern day speak mixed in with this old time. But I thought it worked.
Yeah, it didn't really hit me all that wrong.
No.
Very like these things tend to do, because this is set in France. These are French characters. Damon's character is named de Carrouges, and Driver's character is Legris, and Ben Affleck's playing Count Pierre. These are not French people in any way, but they're French characters. But it didn't matter. It didn't stand out in a way that was dissonant. And
I know people are going to throw the woke card at this, but
oh yeah,
I'll be honest, I was not distracted by that at all. I was aware that people would probably think that way, but I'm telling you, between Adam Driver's story and then Jodie Comer's story, and then the ending, was just so well, the way, and it's her acting too, because she's the most different in every story.
Yeah.
And I just the way it hits isn't. I mean, at one point they're literally saying, "Well, if you don't have an orgasm, you can't get pregnant." And well, there she is, pregnant, and it was probably from the rape. But then Matt Damon raped her right afterwards. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
And then he challenges Adam Driver's character to a duel to the death.
Yeah.
But if Matt Damon loses, she gets burned at the stake, naked in front of the whole town. And talk about suspense and hard to watch. And I mean, this movie is fantastic. And the first thing I read about it is it bombed. I'm like, fuck you. Dune's going to bomb, and Dune's going to be great. This is ridiculous. This is an epic movie that's going to live on forever. Meanwhile, this movie is not going to go away. It's getting praised well. I was really quite shocked because last time I saw a movie as good as another movie we're going to talk about at the end, I hated everything for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I saw this right after I saw Lamb. So I absolutely adore this movie. And this is kind of it's safer than a movie like Lamb or these A24 movies because it's more traditional.
Right.
But I can get behind this being around at the end of the year when they sit and talk about award movies. I think this movie is fantastic. And it's so creative. I love what they're trying to say because the way they do it it's not.
It's so believable.
It's believable. It's not spoon-fed either. It's like a punch to the gut. And when you're sitting there watching that duel, it is more terrifying than anything fucking Halloween Kills had.
Absolutely. But the dark humor of this is so great. I loved the way that in Damon and Driver's stories, each of them sort of, big ups themselves. It's not like anybody, and they didn't frame it where they're telling us the story, but we know it's their version of the story, but it's not them necessarily telling it, but it's from their perspective. But you can tell like the choppy editing early on of Damon's story is very specifically intentional because he's leaving out portions that make him look like a fool. He's leaving out the portions where he got humiliated.
Well, and he's the more simple character. He's your typical jock, who I don't think he's leaving them out. I don't think they exist in his mind. It's that. And yeah, you're right. That direction. While at first I was kind of like, really, this is really rushing it. But in hindsight, it's like really, it really ties this whole movie together. And quite frankly, he's not even trying to be likable. And I kind of appreciate that about Matt Damon being, it's hard to not. I don't know. There's no charm. There's no charisma. He's just this hulky little warrior. And I don't know. I really like this movie, and I can't wait to tell people about it.
Back to the humor, the way that people talk to her, the way people treat her, like the way the doctor just asks her if she's having sex with her husband and if it's satisfying, and just like these are normal questions that people ask. This is not a normal question that you're asking a person. But then they do it in the trial. They're asking her, they're trying to get her to admit that she's had an affair, even though she said that she was right. It's just, and the way they go about it, just trying to shame her constantly, but also like Damon treating her like she's property, not like a person. I mean, everybody does that to her throughout. And her entire story is just about her trying to maintain her dignity, just basically just the one thing that everybody keeps taking from her.
Yeah, and that's really what all of them are going for, but it's so, when you look at it that way, it's like the Matt Damon, because I'm not going to get the names right, so forgive me for saying Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and Jodie Comer, but he challenges him to a duel to the death, not to avenge his wife, but to protect his dignity, to protect his name. He risks her life and the loss of his child's mother to protect his honor and his dignity, for his name. And when he does, everything else is for show. And even the ending is heartbreaking. And it doesn't end. I don't know. No matter how it ends, it's going to be heartbreaking. But no matter, there's no ways it can't. I don't know. It's that scene with her and her kid before the duel is one of the best scenes of the movie that really adds that much more weight to the final scene. I just go see this movie. I don't care if you see it in the theater or at home, but you gotta give this movie a chance because I think it's, fuck Braveheart and Gladiator and all these other sword and sandal movies. I like them, don't get me wrong, but this is far superior to both of those.
Absolutely.
Anything else in The Last Duel?
No, it's incredible. I just love the modern touches. I mean, people are going to say that this isn't they're going to try and say that this isn't a movie that comments on modern day, but it's all about the way that women are treated even today. We're only 20 years or so from a time when people would literally, with a rape victim on as a witness testifying, and somebody saying to her, "Well, what were you wearing?" Like that's less than 20 years ago that happened in a courtroom.
Oh, I even to this day, I don't even want to say her name, but one of my favorite comedians was partially involved in the Louis C.K. thing. All anybody wanted to talk to her about for the next 4 years was that. Mm-hmm. And now she's trying to do something else and wants to go and promote stuff, and all they want to talk to her about is her opinion on Dave Chappelle. They don't care about her. It's lesser than this, but it's still something that's bullshit. And
right. I mean, there's just a story just last year in England where police went door to door telling women that you need to take care of yourself. You need to be careful because there's a man out there that's doing things. It's like, no, stop the men. Like, why aren't you going and telling men not to harm people? How about that? How about you went door to door and say, hey, don't hurt women. No. Women, you need to do things that won't get you hurt.
Back to that scene where with her and her kid, what she says there is just kind of like, I mean, basically she said, I would have never come forward if I knew this was going to be the outcome. And that's, it's just awful.
Yeah, it is. Or the scene with the
baby.
Well, and her mother-in-law.
Oh,
I mean, good God, that was just.
And her friend later on too.
Yeah,
all of it is just. I mean, her life's essentially ruined outside of that kid, and
the indignities that she has to suffer are the indignities that women who are sexually assaulted today still go through.
And part of why I think her story is the most accurate is because she's not allowed to have a personality. She is property given on from a father to a guy. Yeah. She never was allowed to. She doesn't have the ability to exaggerate her story. Maybe the affair that happened, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. That doesn't really matter. It doesn't play a role in what happens at the end. Only to add that everybody's got three versions of the truth. And which that alone, if this wasn't even about rape, that alone is neat. It makes a cool movie. But you throw the deepness and the subject matter into this, it's, again, everybody needs to go see this movie.
Yeah, it'll be fighting for a spot on my top 10 at the end of the year.
Oh, for sure. All right. Hard Luck Love Song.
Hard Luck Love Song stars Michael Dorman as a wannabe songwriter who travels to Nashville. He's he's really down on his luck. He's instead of writing songs and becoming famous, he spends most of his time hustling pool. He's very sad. He's a very lonely guy. We see this in just the manner in which Michael Dorman plays him. As there's this lovely little graceful scene where he's just won at pool and he's got a little money in his pocket and he goes and he sees a homeless guy and he says, I'll get you on the way back. And he goes and he buys some beer for himself. He buys a bottle of wine for the homeless guy. He sees the homeless guy again. He gives him the bottle of the wine and he's got to give him a hug because he's got nobody in his life. There's nothing else there. He's got Sophia Bush, but Sophia Bush he doesn't really have. They have a history together, but she's actually a sex worker in Nashville, and he finds her via this newspaper ad that she's used for a while, apparently long enough that he knows it immediately when he sees it, and calls her and invites him to come see him. And they've got this like on and off relationship from about 20 years ago when they were actually kids, and they start to rekindle things, but you can just tell that it's just not going to go well because it's based upon a lot of drunkenness and a lot of cocaine. And for these two people, this is just not a healthy mix. It's more like a fuse that has been lit and is going to blow up. And what it does, it becomes these two people who know each other well enough to know exactly where to go to hurt each other. And that's what they're going to do. Whether or not they come back around together, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I wanted to see the movie to find that out. But this movie is really great. I love these characters. I love the direction is just really smart. There's this long, the first 45 minutes to an hour, just him, and he's very compelling. He's just his lonesome sadness and just his isolation, and his ability to find trouble. He finds himself in a lot of trouble with a guy played by Dermot Mulroney, who's got a couple of thugs, and when he takes him at pool, obviously that sets up this moment where we're going to touch on visually throughout the movie to remind you that there's something else that's coming that's going to ruin, even if they do manage to find, some happiness between each other, something else is coming down the road that's going to ruin that. And it's just so cleverly directed and so cleverly dropped in these lovely little visual touches. The ending is so great because they earn it. They earn this ending. This ending that suddenly has Eric Roberts and RZA. Yeah, wow. It's fantastic. This movie's great. I just love it. And it's based on a song by Todd Snyder, who is one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters.
Awesome. Is it only in theaters right now?
I think so. I'm not sure if it's streaming or not.
I couldn't find it on Saturday. I was on a plane. I watched the next movie we're going to talk about. And I had time to watch another one because we got stuck in the airport for an extra 2 hours. So I wanted to see this one, but I couldn't find it available. It looked like it was only in theaters, so I think that's awesome that they got that, and that's just very cool. Sounds really good, and I look forward to seeing it when I can. The Velvet Underground.
Yes, directed by Todd Haynes, who's a terrific feature director, directing his first documentary on the band The Velvet Underground, which was a New York band in the mid to late 1960s that was in the orbit of Andy Warhol, who made him his house band at his place called The Factory, which was his New York art installation / disco / nightclub. In the Velvet Underground were his house band, and many people, to the point where people actually thought Andy Warhol was in the band. Right. He could not play an instrument. Lou Reed is the leader with John Cale, Sterling Morrison, and Mo Tucker, with also Nico added to the band by Andy Warhol because she was really pretty. She can sing too, and I like her stuff too. The way he tells this story is in this very unique visual where it's sometimes talking heads and footage from the past. A lot of it shot by Andy Warhol for his own stuff, for his own use in his art, and the combination's really compelling. And especially compelling is this rather incredible music. I don't love everything about the Velvet Underground. Some of that tonal stuff doesn't really do anything for me, but like Heroin and Pale Blue Eyes are two incredible songs, and he uses those as a way of just he layers those songs in underneath these various different talking heads. For years, I had no idea who Mo Tucker was. I didn't know Mo Tucker is a woman, one of the first prominent female drummers in rock and roll, which is amazing. I just never, the name Mo Tucker doesn't scream this is a woman, and I never looked deeper into it. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I knew about the Velvet Underground. I knew about Lou Reed. I knew the songs you mentioned and a couple other songs, but not really a big fan. It was an interesting documentary. I liked the artistic elements to it, like you were saying, the way they cut between takes and in between the talking heads. Just the neat artsy things they do made it more watchable for me. At the same time, I kind of came away with sometimes there's style over substance, and that's how I feel about the Velvet Underground, if I'm being honest. And Lou Reed in general. I don't know if you've ever heard the Lou Reed Metallica record.
No.
It is. You thought Saint Anger was bad. They were just like, all right, what do we do? Like, just play. Like, okay. All right, we're done. They're like, really? Oh, okay. And then he just talks over the top of it, and it's just weird. But at the same time, I appreciate that people, I mean, they had a vision, I guess, but some of it just kind of seemed, at the same time, it's neat, the way the four of them, the way their visions intertwine, and 5 if you want to throw Nico in there, and even 6 if you want to throw Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
What it means to, as soon as you start taking pieces out, it starts to fall apart. And you can see when it becomes Lou Reed's band, and then it starts to sound like what Lou Reed comes into later on, and they all go off and do their own little thing. It's that part of it's neat. It didn't make me like them anymore.
Yeah,
but it is.
I thought it was fitting. I thought it was fitting for this band, and certainly fitting
sure.
of the style of their music and the style of Andy Warhol. Really, absolutely.
It definitely plays true to what that era of New York City was like, and that not even that era, that area of that era. Definitely interesting, if nothing else. Bergman Island.
Bergman Island stars Alice Cripps and Tim Roth, in the story of a pair of filmmakers who travel to Sweden to this island that was Ingmar Bergman's home, and they're going to be there for this Bergman festival. Her husband, Tim Roth, is going to be speaking at the festival and showing one of his films, and being on a panel talking about Ingmar Bergman movies. And they're both going there though so they can finish writing their screenplays. And they each have their own little room where they're writing, and they can see each other across the way. And they talk to each other about what they're writing, or she talks to him about what she's writing. He doesn't do so much of that. But at a certain point, she's struggling with writing her story, and so they go on this long walk, and she starts to tell him the story, and he's listening, but he's also kind of distracted. But she's still telling the story, and and suddenly her story comes to life as Mia Wasikowska is playing the main character in her story, who's a director who has gone to this same island to be at a wedding where her ex-lover is also going to be, and she's going to try and rekindle that relationship with him while she's there. And the way these two stories comment on each other is really brilliant. The way that Mia Hansen-Løve cuts between these two stories and the way they're told, and just the way she layers in these backstories, is so beautiful. You think that Tim Roth's character is going to be some kind of villain, or some kind of, he's going to be the myth of the great man who's going to have this big ego, and he's not. He's a pretty normal guy who loves his wife, but he's also kind of busy and kind of thoughtless here and there, but he's not a monster. And I finally, it just felt like watching a real person instead of that, that kind of classic made up character that we always get when people portray directors in movies. And she's just brilliant. Alice Cripps just captures this so beautifully. The way the way it just all comes together. The way that Mia Hansen-Løve frames it all together, just, weaving in this story that's being told, but then also turning it into a real aspect of the story that we're watching, is just great. I adore this movie.
That's awesome. And this is available for streaming, I think. I did find this one. I just didn't want to watch it on the plane, but it sounds good. Sorry. Introducing Selma Blair.
Yeah, this is a documentary on Discovery Plus on the actress Selma Blair, who people remember from Cruel Intentions and Legally Blonde. She, in 2018, revealed that she had multiple sclerosis, and she decided to participate in this documentary to show shine a light on this disease and the way it can affect you and the way it affects real people. And so often, this is something that we all kind of want to turn away from because it is not easy to look at. We see her early on being interviewed, and when she shows this thing that happens to her, where if she picks something up with her left hand, the rest of her body collapses. You don't know why. It's something to do with the disease, but she just kind of falls over and almost falls asleep. it's inexplicable. And for a time when she was first diagnosed, she had these tremors that were so bad that they would exhaust her until she fell asleep, and she could sleep for 16 hours a day.
Wow.
And nobody knew what to do about it. They finally got her onto a series of medications that were kind of giving her some function back, and she was able to, be part of her son's life and such. But then she discovers that there's this new treatment, this stem cell treatment that some people say can restore complete, like almost regular life. Like, it's not a cure, but it restores so much of your mobility that it's a shock. It's shocking a lot of people. There's a lot of people who find this very controversial. It is incredibly dangerous. And she decides to go through with it, and we watch how that goes. And it is amazing. If you watch her on Instagram now, you're kind of blown away. Like, she has MS. Like, you're just kind of like, because apparently it did work for her in many ways, and it's working for people who have money, unfortunately. And that's kind of what she's pointing out here, is that this is a treatment that could be a game changer for hundreds of thousands of people, but it's also prohibitively expensive and not fully accepted by the entire medical establishment.
Yeah, you hear that all the time about stem cells, and you hear the stories that they're doing, the results they're producing, but then you hear who they're doing it on as always celebrities or athletes or somebody, and it's really cool. I'll definitely have to check this out. I do have Discovery Plus, and I'm just very interested, and I know a few people with MS, and it's just cool to see hope.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's something that becomes more available to people, especially if it's less dangerous. I don't know how much of it's political and how much of it's ethics and how much of it's safety of why certain medical professionals.
I think a lot of it is religion,
right?
And unfortunately, and religion influencing science in some ways, because of the nature of stem cells. Even though that's not even the story of stem cells anymore, it would seem.
Right. But no, it sounds like a very interesting documentary. I'll have to check that one out. All right. We do have another new movie, but we're going to save that, and we're going to jump to our undisputed classic, Saint Maud.
Saint Maud stars Morfydd Clark as Maud, or is she Katie? There's some intrigue there. She's a strange, shy young woman, a nurse who takes on a job working for a former world-famous ballet dancer played by Jennifer Ailey, who is a woman who is dying of cancer, and she's going to become her nurse. And Maud happens to be recently become very, very religious, very dedicated to God. And she gets it in her head as she's dealing with the Jennifer Ailey character that she's going to save her, that she's going to bring her to God in the way she understands it. And you can see where Jennifer Ailey's character is just kind of humoring her, or is she? The movie kind of toys with that idea. What Maud is not a reliable narrator in any way in this movie, and to the point where in the end I do like this movie. I think it's incredible, but at times I was rather confused as to what I was supposed to believe and what I'm not supposed to believe.
Right. No, I'm with you 100%. I like it quite a bit, but at the same time, there is a level of confusion that the movie leaves you with, which I think is intentional, but at the same time, I'm not positive. I want it to be intentional because I'm confused. What I love about it, though, is just the original idea. That's something that lacks more than not. And this is just something, it's an artist doing whatever they want to do and telling their version of the story, even if it's not perfect. It's wholly original, and I'm absolutely happy it exists. I do like it. It doesn't quite raise to the levels of the next movie that we're gonna talk about, and
right.
And in some ways, when A24 is involved and the movie doesn't get there, it's almost like, do I like it? But if this didn't have the A24 logo on it, I think I would like it way more. There's just a standard I automatically put on these movies before I see them, and that's not fair to the movies.
I do love the ending. That ending was ballsy as hell. I wish I understood what part of it I was supposed to believe.
Right. But it's a neat idea. I don't know. It's just a neat idea on the whole.
It is. It feels like though she wants it both ways. The director, Rose, can't remember her name now.
Rose Glass.
Thank you. She seems to. It's almost as if she's hedging her bets on whether or not you're going to buy in on one part of it or another part of it. Whether God is talking to her or God is not talking to her, and I don't think it settles. Honestly, I don't think it settles on either one.
Right.
It seems like at the last second, it seems to jump back to reality for a moment, and I'm like, wait, but which one are you going for?
Yeah, I like it. I agree. It seems like early on they want you to believe reality or that God's not talking to her, and then they're throwing that shadow of doubt, and I don't know. It's
There's a scene late in the movie that they do with Jennifer Ailey's character that made me go the other way.
Right.
And I was so confused by that scene that I don't think the ending hit me as hard if it hadn't been for that scene.
And I get it. I don't mind that necessarily. Like, I don't believe in ghosts at all. And like I've mentioned, my house is haunted. I'll be honest, because the acoustics are weird. I've been in the kitchen, and there's a dog in the kitchen, but it's just the way the sound is traveling. My dog could be in my bedroom, but it sounds like he's 2 feet away from me. And at 1 a.m, that's pretty scary. You know, but I still don't believe there's a ghost dog walking around my kitchen, and I just don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this movie isn't that either, so I don't know why I told that story. But I mean, it's worth watching. I don't know. I think
it's still many ways incredible. I think Morphin Clark's performance is incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the direction is very smart, and it's well directed. There's no doubt about that. I think the ideas are there. I just don't think. I think that hedges too much on what you're supposed to buy and what you're not supposed to buy.
Fair enough.
That ending would have been more powerful for me if it were just all real.
Right. I get you 100%. All right. Sorry, I rushed through the classics. I can't wait to get back to Lamb. This movie came out last week, Select Cities. Now it's wider this week. I don't know how wide, but wide enough for the Quad Cities.
Yeah, it won't be very long.
Yeah, Sean and I were the only two in the theater.
So funny. I arrived at the theater, and I don't have to pay for tickets, so I was just talking to the manager like, I'm just gonna go see Lamb. He's like, okay, yeah, just go on in, there's only one other person there. And it turned out to be Bob.
The funny part was I knew it was you instantly, and you had a mask on that was like covering everything but your eyes, but I could still tell it was. And I haven't seen you like in person but like once since the whole pandemic started. I was like, hey, that's Sean. And then you just burst out laughing. It was pretty awesome. So we'll do regular review like we normally do, and then we're gonna go straight into spoilers. So when we go to spoilers, we're just gonna go there. We'll give you a little notice, and then we'll throw a little flick chart on at the end. But once we get to the end of this, if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, I recommend turning it off at that point. But go ahead and let's start with the non-spoiler review.
All right. Lamb stars Noomi Rapace and Hilmir Snær Gudnason as husband and wife who are farmers in Iceland. And they have sheep. Is it sheep?
Yeah.
And they have just the farm and do farmer stuff, and then their sheep give birth, and then one time they pull out this baby, and well, it's different. It's very, very different. They take this particular sheep this lamb, they bring it inside, and they start treating it like a child. And you kind of, from the trailer what's coming, but it's still, it's kind of puzzling. If you didn't see the trailer, you'd definitely be like, what is going on here? Me, I'm just sitting there going, show me this horrific human lamb abomination now, please. They fuck with you for a little while. They don't show it to you. And then when they do, It is something. It's quite a creation. This is a lamb human hybrid, a little girl with a lamb head, and you're just kind of it's just kind of something that's there. They raise it like their own child. They even named the child Atta, and that happens to be the name of their own child that had died before the story began, which is adds just another larger element to this element of sadness and grief and longing and desire, and just fucking beautiful in many ways. And then Hilmer's brother arrives, played by Bjorn Hilner Haraldsson, and he comes in and adds this whole new energy to the movie, because they are treating this child just like a child, like they treat it like just like their baby. And he walks in and he's the first one who kind of goes, "What the fuck is going on?" What I found fascinating about these two characters is that they just seem to accept this right away. They just went with it immediately, and no conversation. Like they have conversations with their eyes, basically, just kind of in looking at each other, and they just seem to know, yeah, we're gonna do this. Then the brother arrives, like, what the fuck? And his what the fuck energy really carries the second act of the movie. But the final act of the movie, he's actually gone, and there's this whole other thing that takes place that leads you to this ending that is just fucking great. It's a great ending. It's powerful. It's hypnotic. It's weird. It's exciting, and I love this movie.
Absolutely. One, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The stuff they do with the sheep early on, I don't know how much of it's puppetry and how much of it's real sheep. Like they're getting reactions out of these sheep. When they look scared, the sheep look scared. When they're curious, they look curious. I don't know how the level of patience this director had to get some of those scenes on. The dog too. And again, I know there's puppetry involved, so that's probably played a role, but even that takes patience. To get these shots and to make them work perfectly is that alone. If this movie sucked, you would have had that going for it. Then they spend like the whole first act having conversation that doesn't really mean anything. It gets your mind going. It makes you start thinking about things. They start talking about time travel at one point. You're like, what the fuck is this going to go? And they talk about they're looking for something. There's some loss. My head trying to piece where this movie was going to go was all over the place. And then as they introduce a new element, it adds even that. Now it makes the possibilities even more. And none of it's cheating. None of it's cheap. It's all well earned. But the director is definitely having fun with the audience, messing with their head. And I just absolutely loved that about this. And that was the only thing I was worried about being in the theater together was I'm glad we didn't really talk, which is if this were Halloween Kills, we would have had a blast. Probably would have been a better movie, especially if we were just the only two in there.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat. I didn't want to distract you. You probably didn't want to distract me.
No.
I couldn't have distracted you if I wanted to anyway. I was so like, what the fuck is going on? I love this movie. This is fantastic. Like
it's hypnotic. It's gorgeous. It's weird. It's so weird. But it's mostly silent. Like I dig it. The patience, the timing, the reveals are smart. There's an amazing scene with the brother-in-law that is just so powerful. Oh man, because I was starting to have Hereditary vibes for a moment.
Oh, definitely. This definitely lines like right in between those two movies for me, because I don't think a movie has fucked with my head this much since Midsummer, if I'm being honest. Because it was just going. I didn't come away drunk or anything like that. I mean, this isn't Midsummer because nothing's Midsummer. But it's one of the better A24 movies that I have ever seen. I'm in love with this movie. I think it's my favorite of the year so far.
It's up there for me.
And I'm sure I need to go back, and there's some really good ones that we've talked about too. Part of it's just the way it messed with my head.
Yeah.
And I want to go on to some of the things I was thinking about, so we'll get there in a second, because I went somehow really way off. And a lot of the ways that got me there, though...
The movie invites that, though. It invites you to go where you went with this, because the one thing that you're thinking about early on in this movie, and yes, there's kind of a reveal. Like, I thought there was a reveal at the very beginning, really, of what took place. But honestly, there's a question that doesn't get asked that you're kind of wondering, like, why isn't nobody asking who fucked the sheep?
Right.
It's like, but it's this like kind of big comic question. Like how the fuck nobody asks, nobody wants to know, nobody wants to ask that question. And that's part of the tension of the movie, is that it feels like somebody's gonna ask that question at any moment.
But they never even really go into the kid they lost.
Yeah.
So my assumption, and at one point they're looking for something. They're looking in the barn. Louis Pace's character tells him, you go to the upper part of the barn, it might be up there, I'll leave that for you. But you don't know what they're looking for. You don't know why. They never go into any of that. It's just a kind of a dinner conversation, and they move on. And so they leave all these hints of things to the point where, and then when you even go to the grave of their kid, there's like 3 crosses. There's more than one.
Yeah.
So my assumption was he kept fucking the sheep. They'd have a lamb. At some point, because animals grow faster than humans, it would age quicker, and then it wasn't cute anymore, and they had to kill it. And they just kept doing this over and over again until one got away. That was my... And quite frankly, even with the way it ends, I can still see that making sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is her character, if that is what happened.
Yeah.
That's where I get... Even if there's a sex scene, and like he doesn't fuck her, he goes down on her. And I don't know if that means anything or not, but it's just interesting. The relationship between her and the brother-in-law, there's just things there that never totally canceled this idea, but at the same time, I don't think it's where it goes. But it's just, I don't know. It's just fascinating. But we're already kind of hinting at the spoiler territory, so you want to just start heading there? Yeah.
So
right. Hold on, 3, 2, 1. At this point forward, it's spoiler territory. So turn the show off if you don't want to get spoiled. Go.
So you thought the husband was fucking the sheep?
Yes. And then I thought the last sheep that comes back and saves the day, if you will, was one that got away. Is one that got away. And because I thought they were looking for that. And when he shows up, I was just like, oh my God. Now, even if at some point somebody fucked a sheep, even for that monster sheep lamb to exist. So
I don't know about that, because I don't necessarily think if a human fucks a sheep, they can have a baby.
No. But at the same time,
I don't know. But then I don't know how this particular human sheep hybrid came to be. The first one, I guess you would say, the one that comes back around at the end. I don't know how that male sheep exists. I don't know how this sheep exists, but I mean, I know how this sheep exists because that male sheep fucked one of the sheep and created this one.
Well, that's the way they imply. They never actually show it happening, but
right.
We assume. We
never see any sheep fucking.
No.
But again, this is kind of giving me like Dick Long vibes, because like the one thing that nobody wants to do is actually say what happened. Nobody wants to break the tension and actually, because it's such an outlandish idea, such an outlandish question of who did what to create this thing, and nobody wants to say that.
Right, and it's almost like this movie flirts with every A24 possibility. Because at some point, there's this weird sheep cult. Because they even flirt with some sort of satanic rams or whatever. In a fair, kind of a daydream. I don't know. There's just so much there that they're messing with. Like, it's got that Dick Long vibe. It's got the witch. It definitely has the Ari Aster stuff. It's all present. But, in the simplest form, it's just about a parent's unconditional love for a kid, and what it means and the way we grieve, and I don't know. There's just a lot. There's still so many unanswered questions that I would love to know the answers to, but at the same time, not knowing makes it that much more fun too.
That's the thing, the whole tension, like for me, the whole tension of the movie is just how outlandish it is and how unbelievable it is. And the way that no character, it's not like in a Seth Rogen movie where somebody would actually say, "Who fucked the sheep?" Mm-hmm. Take and get the big laugh and cathartic, settle out and then figure out who did it. This movie doesn't do that, and it just maintains that weird tension throughout that creates this atmosphere that is just mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's like this is exactly what happened, but the director purposely shows us what he wants us to see. We don't see any part of the rest of their lives. We only see what he wants us to see, which adds that much more to this movie. They go into town. We just never see them do it.
The brother arrives at their house having walked miles after somebody threw him out the back of their trunk. They rolled him out of the back of the trunk of their car, tossed his phone into the ditch, and left him there.
And we don't know
that's how he gets to their house.
And we don't know he's the brother because that adds tension to the movie until he's introduced as the brother.
And the way he arrives and what he does when he arrives is weird. I always thought it was giving me Last House on the Left vibes. Again, this the weird sort of homage.
Yeah, at the same time, you go online and look. People hate this movie, especially not critics, not movie buffs, because they're wanting to see. Because the critics are saying how you'll never believe where this goes, because you won't. Mm-hmm.
You won't.
But, if you like Halloween Kills, you were going to hate this.
I was telling a friend of mine that I was describing to her the movie that I was watching. She goes, "What the fuck? I would never watch that."
Yeah. But it's such
You're missing out.
And again, I went to my brother who wanted to see it. His wife wouldn't let him go. I just and I think you said this to me as well, but it was who comes up with this shit? That alone comes up with the idea, and then on top of that, this movie is so well thought out. It's ridiculous. So not only do you have to have this ridiculous premise, but then you got to come up with how to tell the story. And
right. I mean, it's such a limited premise too. You've got to come up with incident, and the incidents that he comes up with are smart. The way the way they deal with the actual mother of the lamb, the mother lamb, the way they deal with that is fucking brilliant. That tension of her just continuously arriving at the baby's window and calling out to it, and how Numi Rapace handles that is phenomenal. Just it's it shouldn't be shocking, but it is. And like I said, he's got to come up with this idea and then invent, incidents that are going to carry us to the ending. And he does that brilliantly.
And her character just is like this wild card throughout. It's the one that prevents me from going with the sheep fucker angle. Her motivations are just, I don't know. Again, this is one of the better performances of the year, I think, is her. Just when you can see this movie, especially if you're a movie buff. If you're a movie buff, you're listening to this podcast most likely. This is a must-see. It's Icelandic. It's foreign, so you have to read.
Subtitled.
But there's very little talking.
Yeah.
It's just all atmosphere and tension, and I can't wait to watch it again. I really can't, to see what else I'm going to pick up from it. Anything else on Lamb before you let us go?
No, it's incredible, and it's incredible. Everybody watch it.
All right. Let's go and play a little flick chart, and then call it a night. All right, screen share to here, and wow, Finding Dory, Zero Dark 30.
I mean, those are two really good movies.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Zero Dark 30. I loved Finding Dory, but Zero Dark 30, I like that movie a lot.
In a lot of ways, they're the same movie. Do you know A Young at Heart?
I do. That movie's incredible.
All right.
It's about an old people choir.
Mr. Deeds or Young at Heart?
Young at Heart by a lot.
Okay. Cool Hand Luke, Barton Fink.
Barton Fink.
This would have been harder for me a while ago. Prior to having seen Barton Fink. I love Cool Hand Luke a ton, but not the movie as much as Paul Newman's performance. But Barton Fink is a fucking
overall
awesome.
as a movie, it's just better.
Yeah, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, Planet of the Apes, 1968.
Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
Zodiac, The Fabulous Baker Boys.
Zodiac.
Yes. Wanderlust, Taken.
Wanderlust.
Oh, well, I thought we were going to be split on that one. I agree.
No. I don't actually like Taken anymore. Oh. Kind of over Taken now.
Good. Drive, Crocodile Dundee.
Drive.
Yeah. Teenage Ninja 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey.
Never heard of it.
Good. Ninja Turtles 3. She's All That.
Ninja Turtles 3.
Just because of the first one. Old Boy 2003, Twilight. This is awesome.
Old Boy.
Fuck you, Twilight. Memento, Panic Room.
Memento.
The one time I will take Christopher Nolan over David Fincher. Maybe that's the one movie that's going to beat most Fincher movies.
I've never seen Test Pilot.
Neither have I. Star Trek Insurrection, Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Yes, The Princess Diaries.
It's my regular Saturday night thing.
Yeah. The Princess Diaries, Predator.
It's Predator.
Yeah, the best action movie.
It was close.
Time.
It was close, though. I will say it was close.
Oh, I bet you if we're
Alien versus Predator, I'd be picking Princess Diaries all day.
right. The Manchurian Candidate, 10,000 BC.
Manchurian Candidate, 10,000 BC is unwatchable.
Yeah, Hard Candy, Predator.
Hard Candy.
That's easy.
Yeah.
The Jewel of the Nile, West Side Story.
West Side Story.
I'm not looking forward to that remake. I hate the West Side Story. Frankenstein, Goldeneye.
Frankenstein.
Absolutely. The Bridge on the River Kwai, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Wow.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Absolutely. Sherlock Holmes, 2010, You Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Sherlock, yeah.
Blade, The Secret of Kells.
Blade.
Okay. Grumpy Old Men, American Werewolf in London.
Grumpy Old Men. I don't like American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion of it. I need to rewatch it. It's been forever. Grown Ups, Ninja Turtles 3.
Ninja Turtles 3.
Only because Grown Ups should have been better. I mean, I know as much as you hate Sandler, but there's no excuse for Grown Ups not at least being fun dumb. It's just not good at all.
No.
Save the Last Dance, Tuxedo.
Save the Last Dance.
I actually kind of like that movie. Battle Royale, Hostage.
Hostage is actually not a bad movie. I'm going Battle Royale, but Hostage is actually one of the last good Bruce Willis movies.
Oh, nice. Ghost, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
I Am Sam, Identity.
Identity. Fuck, I Am Sam so hard.
Yes. Star Trek Beyond, The Princess and the Frog.
I kind of like Star Trek.
I didn't see the year, so I'm okay with you going with that.
Yeah, it's not Next Generation, so it's probably pretty good.
Super 8, The American Werewolf in London.
Super 8. I like Star Trek The Next Generation, just none of the movies. And all the movies are terrible.
Yeah, Captain America, The First Avenger, Sex and the City.
Oh, fuck Sex and the City. Fuck them so hard. Captain America. I hate the Sex and the City movies. Oh, just so bad.
Monsters University, Outbreak.
That's tough for me. I love both those movies. Which way you going?
Outbreak.
Outbreak.
I mean, I like monsters, but Outbreak's kind of fun. Scream 3, Ju-on.
Ju-on. Just the Scream 3 is the worst Scream movie.
Well, and Ju-on, like, shows you how to do the grudge right. Knives Out, Thor: The Dark World.
I like The Dark World, but it's Knives Out.
Knives Out is fantastic. Ninja Turtles 3.
Ninja Turtles 3 wins again.
Okay, you've seen that, okay.
Oh, I'm not. I guess I haven't seen. No, I haven't seen it. I've seen Tarzan the Ant-Man.
All right.
I've not seen Last Man on Earth though. It looks good though.
Alien versus Predator, Requiem, or American Hustle?
Yeah, that looks pretty easy.
Yeah. District 9, Something's Gotta Give.
You go ahead. I don't know.
I'm going District 9. Manchurian Candidate, 2004. Super Mario Brothers.
Manchurian Candidate.
Agreed. Alien versus Predator versus The Hills Have Eyes remake, which I know you hate.
They're both garbage. They're both utter fucking garbage. Alien versus Predator.
I'll flip it. I don't love Hills Have Eyes, but I hate the Alien vs. Predator.
I hate them both equally, so I just picked one at random.
I win. Not that it matters. The Burbs, Spice World.
The Burbs.
Finding Neverland, Midnight Cowboy.
Finding Neverland.
Yeah. The Sixth Day, Apollo 13.
Apollo 13.
Scream 4, The Negotiator.
Negotiator.
I haven't seen either one. Toys or Witness?
Witness.
Inception, 12 Angry Men.
That's tough. I love 12 Angry Men. Like, that movie is incredible. Inception's incredible too, though. So I'm torn. I think my heart says 12 Angry Men.
Mine does too. But you've heard my version of when I saw it. It was in a drive-in at like 3 a.m. I think I'd watch 12 Angry Men first. It's shorter. It's easier to. It's just a super watchable movie, despite the age that it is. Cloud Atlas or Doom. That's just how we end it for Josh.
Let's end it just to torture Josh to think what we might pick.
Yeah. You're never going to know, Josh.
You're never going to know, Josh.